Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the AI Interconnect podcast. I'm your host, Lauren. This show is about real conversation with founders and operators building in complex markets. AI Interconnect, we focus on understanding how companies actually grow, what works, what breaks, and what change over time. Today, I'm joined by David Levy Maduro, co-founder and managing director at CXPay. CXPay is a payment infrastructure company helping businesses accept and manage digital payment across the Caribbean and Latin America. David, thank you for being here. Very happy to have you on the show.
And thank you very much for the invite, Lauren.
Sorry for your last name, your managing director, and we are in Curacao. Wonderful. Wow. Love it. Okay, let's start with your background. I'm very happy to have you here. So listeners understand the path that led you here. You have spent over a decade building in a region that most people underestimate. And David, how did your background lead you to build CXPay and focus specifically on the Caribbean and Latin American market?
Well, Laurent, it's a very long story, and I need to really make it short since we don't have the whole day or several parts of this podcast. But let me
Sure.
start with the easiest one. I myself this is now my seventh industry. I have started from food and beverage to ICT to web development to telecom auditing to social marketing to online gambling to a few others, a total of seven industries. In 2014, when we started up CXPay, it was mostly to help the community which needed to accept payments from online gambling. In 2015, we found out the hard way that in Curacao, with all those licenses that we have in Curacao to provide to gambling operators, there's no physical bank or financial institution to accept those payments. So no acquiring for high risk merchants. 2015, we decided in the second half of 2015, we found one bank who says, hey, let's do regular e-commerce. So low risk, medium risk, and let's start it. So on the 3rd of January 2016, we started our first merchants. We still have some of those left so far. And we started our business and we're now entering our 31st market in the Caribbean. So we're connected already to several other countries, being all the way to Canada, Costa Rica, even Guam and Saipan. But our focus is in the LAC region, where we then have an assistance to e-commerce. And then as of 6 months ago, we also provided a card present solution. So a POS to POS. So when there's physical cards, but then integrated with the supermarket system, with the kiosk, with the parking meter and stuff. And we also have some other services, but primarily CXPay is a payment gateway.
Wow. I love it. Seven different industries. Are the last one are related? The payment gambling and payment industry is kind of related, huh? A little bit.
It is an example is that I remember in 98, 97, we had tremendous issues where PayPal had to stop with the high risk because they wanted to become publicly known, etc. And then we found ourselves in a path where, okay, so PayPal had to drop for the financial transactions, and then NetTeller and PaySafe, everybody knows that now in the online gambling world, had to start up, and we had part of that as well. But I'm out of that world completely, out of the online gambling. But it provided me the basis for e-commerce, how it occurred, how it happened, how it's supposed to happen, etc. All that is like second nature to us. So the risk, the fraud, the KYC, the onboarding, all that comes very natural to me now.
Yeah, yeah, not to mention, obviously. Okay, of course. Disclosure. Uh, okay, then, I mean, which type of client benefits the most from the XP today?
Well, CXPay it started out with a merchant which had, if I'm not mistaken, $15 a month. She was trying to sell one of her cookbooks, and it had to reach into the Caribbean. And she said the only way of doing it is making sure that the cost of doing business even though she had to send it out via three ways and she had to pay a monthly fee and everything. She said, "Listen, I need to do this." Like that, her Caribbean books, recipe book got out. She's doing all kinds of pop-up events. She's doing many other things. One of our other clients is an airline. They start out with five or $15,000 a month, and now they're doing much more. It is the accountant, it is the lawyer, it is a retail store, it is the coffee place, it is a taxi, it is the fiduciary company, it's the administration, it's the one who needs metered subscriptions. It need every and anybody except for adults, gambling, and social. We handle everything except for those three. And it's not that we don't accept them. It is that primarily the banks don't accept it. So that means if the bank doesn't accept it, we can't. However, if the bank does accept it, we need to think about it two times because we prefer not to have too many of the wrong hits into our system where then many other things can happen. So we prefer to keep it at low to medium risk.
Of course. Okay, I love it. Where do you create the most value in the payment flow?
It is more where the people cannot get it or the prices are too high. We come in and we have a very low threshold. So even though sometimes $15 a month is very expensive to some, our transactional pricing is very low. We assist, we spend much time with the people who have it's difficult for them to learn or to know about this technology, just want to accept payments. We are there to help them. Now, sometimes they could be the next Yahoo. We just don't look at the money first or the amount of transactions first. So when banks and other institutions ask you, okay, so how many transactions? I'm like, I don't know. And really, why should it if you have the Yahoo already in your hands that they can become the better business of all? I mean, we've had merchants starting up with $100 and now they're doing over $1 million a month. So we don't discriminate between those kind of merchants.
Cool. And what makes your approach different in your agent compared to competitors?
It say it many times. I say it that we know payments. So a lot of times the banks ask us, the financial institutions ask us. We do training inside their operation. We come in and advise their operation as well. So we've had several across the Caribbean and in the Dutch Caribbean as well, who then requested us to come in for a 2 hour session every month to either train or to guide their card departments or the payments department. We are also very aware of the technologies. So most of the technologies we are integrated with already or find a way to integrate with, from property management services to taxis to transportation, even airlines. There's a bunch of things which we are involved in. Most of the time, it is that we have the hand holding effect that we try to carry over and we bring aboard either the financial institution, their managers, their merchants, or just simply go to a school, to a university and provide some more information. We've had it that the local university has requested several times to provide either an international business or their ICT expertise that we can provide some insight and I I don't want to say that it sounds bad, but to give them a better view of what they are studying for or to become. So a lot of people in the Caribbean say we have too little people in the IT department. Well, everybody in the whole world has too little of these developers, coders, IT guys. So it is, if I'm not mistaken, a coherentness that we all have to form that we can then go out and give the younger generation or the new generation or the next generation the tools to move forward and grow our business even better.
Love it. Wonderful. You have been very clear that building in these markets is not straightforward. And right now, what feels like the hardest part of running and scaling CXPay?
The acceptance of it. So the financial institutions in the Caribbean are guided by the bigger companies out there. And when they learn A, they don't learn A to Z, they only learn A. So they understand A. So when you come with B, you're like, no, I prefer to stay with A. So they prefer to stay in a comfort zone. Um, it is not that they don't want to take risk, but they're very much risk averse. And then you come from a fintech point of view, and the fintech point of view is if there's no transactions, there's nothing happening. So an example like CXPay also is not just a gateway. We have a wallet of our own. We have a GoFundMe of our own. We have a cashless solution and ticket solution. But the challenge is there is not enough business and not enough volume to then create the mass that you can grow. So an example is when you go to a bank and it's a new bank. So right now we're discussing new banks in other countries which we're not, or in countries where we are. And the bank prefers, and maybe you are not used to this, but I'll tell you that in my own country, I am not seen as a viable option. But when I go to a different country, I am. And it's the other way around also. So when I go into another country, the other country has the same thing with the ones who are in their country. So we're trying to go on a Caribbean scale or LAC scale. And somebody asked me, well, why don't you go into that country? There's a booming business there. And I'm like, why should I go there if there's like 28 that do the same job as me? I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I don't want to go in between all of them. Wait, I'll go to others where there's very little who need more help. And of course, we go and we do that. The banks always are very risk averse. So that means they would like to have credit, they would like to other many other things. But when there comes from higher up, from an outside country, a public known traded company comes in, then suddenly it's like, whoa, let's listen to them because they're so big. While you have the little ones up and coming who they don't give the necessary time or the opportunity to prove themselves. CXPay has a proven track record already. Since the 3rd of January 2016, we've been processing already for 10 years. If I'm not mistaken, we've done more than $7 billion worth of transactions. For me, we have an average transaction of, if I'm not mistaken, $9 per transaction, which is very high for the Caribbean. So for us, it's more of where are we going and how should we go about this? Adaptation and adaptation is really important. If you cannot scale, you cannot adapt, you cannot survive in the Caribbean. Period.
No, definitely. Definitely. Okay, I love your that sounds great. From what I've seen, there's still a big gap between perception and reality when it comes to payment in the Caribbean and Latin America. From your vantage point, what shift matters most right now, but it's still underappreciated?
You know, an example is that everybody wants to listen to the big guys. So I'm going to call it, even though I shouldn't be, but the Stripe and the PayPal and the Revolut and all those big ones. So everybody angulates them. However, these guys don't come and they come and register and they come below the regulator because it's too little volume. For me, it's only the opportunity then that I can move forward. But when I come with solutions like they have, like a accounting system or a invoicing system, or let's say one of the only ones who do accept payments through Apple Pay and Google Pay. We have Click to Pay. We have so many other technologies already live in Europe and in the United States and in Latin America. We also have that you can do payments on your phone with QR codes, NFC payments. We got the, as I mentioned already, the POS-to-POS payment. So there's a lot that we have in place, but they don't. I don't want to say they don't take us seriously, but I just did. They prefer to do it themselves and then stay in the little bubble that they are. We need to advance. An example, why are we 10 years, 15 years behind in the Caribbean? But then on sudden other things we're like 5 years ahead of the US. An example, we don't take checks anymore in the Dutch Caribbean. In the US, they still take. In the Dutch Caribbean, we have something called instant payment network, where the central banks of Aruba and Curacao Saint Martin implemented a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, which gives you 5 seconds for the instant pay to have taken place. In the US, still you need to wait 2 or 3 business days for a bank wire to take place. So when you're talking about Europe and what they're doing, and you're talking about the Caribbean, what we're doing, instant payment is not everywhere in the Caribbean. So They just did a pilot, or they're going to do a pilot between Barbados and the Bahamas to do instant payments. The Eastern Caribbean tries to do the digital, the currency. There's a lot going on in the Caribbean. What do you have? Like 70 type of countries and over 700 islands, 40 million people, 46 million people. But then all of them are scattered with several regulators. And this all is in the negative for progress. So we're trying to do our best in the Dutch Caribbean, Curacao, where I am at, but we handled the full Caribbean. Last week, I was with a company from Trinidad who does business also in Barbados and Guyana, and it's coming to Curacao. Now, if we're talking about the CARICOM, which is so great in the Caribbean, but CARICOM basically is that you can have a employee go from one island to the other island without much red tape. It's not for the companies. So who drives the business, the company or the person? So right now, I said, okay, including we're associate members of CARICOM, and we can't move forward in the Caribbean itself. Only the employees can. I'm like, okay, so I gotta keep myself registered in each country where I want to do business with, or I want to do business in, because we do business across the Caribbean. But for me, it's sometimes eye appealing to keep looking at what other ideas can we bring to the table. If we keep, and mind you, the word disruptive is used very poorly. When you say disruptive, it's very negative. I call it innovative. So we need to keep innovating every single day and every hour of the day because of these issues, because we got so many fragmented islands, because we have so many different regulators with all different kind of aspects. One problem in Trinidad is a completely different problem in Curacao. One problem in St. Martin is completely different than Aruba. Jamaica, where we're in right now, and Santo Domingo, where we're closely in. There's a lot of business going on there. Now, if it's business protection, it's not. People just want to move business forward and earn money. People need to be educated, so they need to go to school. People need to understand the business, and so they can progress in business. But the one thing that I don't see a lot is collaboration, because there's so many fragments. I mean, how many countries do you have in Europe, and how many are working together? I mean, you got the EU, you can do business back and forth without a problem. The same thing in the States. How many states are there in the United States? The same thing with
Sure.
Canada. It doesn't happen in the Caribbean. That it's so well fragmented that is the biggest issue.
Yeah, it's strange. It doesn't make sense, but it looks like. But anything changes recently that made things more complex?
When you say complex, I say more to grasp. Okay, so the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, has a Caribbean side of it, and they've looked at our most of our islands, and most of it are going well. But that opens up the eyes of the regulator and the government and many of the other companies, the banks, and so forth. So banks are on one side, and they're trying to every time to keep themselves up to the par of the regulator, and also, of course, of the other financial institutions out there. So, um, from the correspondent banks to many other organizations, Visa, Mastercard, and so forth as well. So, what you can understand is that if the progress is needed, it needs to be collectively. If one bank goes does and does it, one financial institution that does it, the rest will look at them and kind of like, why are you doing this? It's not needed, so it's not required, so why do it? We in Curacao, Martin, Aruba, most of the banks are the same. And if I'm not mistaken, kudos that we're very much up to par within the online banking system, instant payment network, and so forth. But it misses a lot of things. It misses a lot of things in the way of technology should work together. The bank should have, let's say, open banking. They should allow fintechs to work with them. And that's where we're at. Fintechs are not respected yet to what they are and what they can. Okay. So you got a fintech in Curacao does over 25 years of business. You got another one of 20 years. We're of 10 years. Yet the three of us do more business outside of our own island than inside our island. It is because other people see the value of what we do. So it's not something bad. It happens all over the world. So an example, where do you have, let's say, New Zealand? Are they only going to take somebody from New Zealand, or are they going to look outside? They're going to have an RFP. People from the outside can also apply for it. And like we have others that can come in and do the business as well. For me, it is the collaboration and the understanding of fintech, financial technology, is key to this matter. We are not, and again, we are very much innovative, but we need to collaborate more and make sure that other things happen as well. Other thing, as in, there's a lot of KYC software out there. There's a lot of compliance software out there. Banks are integrating without telling everybody, but it is there. There are ticket systems. There are so many other systems put into place where a financial institution can organize and can have their statistics very well and serve the community very well. But then it comes up to a supervisor or a manager that when something's asked to them, they take a wrong decision because they're not always 100% involved. Fintechs, for example, we come to the table, and I'll give an example. For some banks which I work with, I've yet to discuss with the top manager of the corporation, of the financial institution, who we are, what we do, what we've been doing with their own bank in 10 years or 5 years that we've gone through. It is because everybody does their thing, and that's it. And that's also my when we go out and we go to conferences, we hear about a lot of new things. I hope that financial institutions, directors, CEOs, CFOs go to them as well, because it's not that the guys in between are doing things, but the top level who needs to decide what the roadmap is going to be needs to also understand it. So are you going to understand it from your employees who you pay salary for, and that's it? Or are you going to see, yeah, but in Moguanago, Wisconsin, they're using this, and how come we're not doing this? Examples that I tell you that you need to broaden your horizon, you need to be open. And one thing that brought me over from my other 6 industries that I've worked at is have an open mind. So when I have a merchant come in and they're a restaurant, I know what they go through because I've done food and beverage. But I then train my people, my staff, how to deal with them. Hey guys, they're not looking at just this, they're looking at that. So when you're in food and beverage, don't you look at the taste of it? Yes. Do you look at the cost? Yes. Did you look at the ingredients? Yes. Do you look at the menu mix? Yes. So it's a complete package which you need to understand. Only then can you have success.
Yeah, that's true. But where do you see the biggest disconnect between the global player and the local reality?
Well, because it's in the financial industry, it's something very tough, very hard. The regulators are the ones who say everything. So in the Dutch Caribbean, especially, a lot of the banks have an issue with the correspondent bank. So the same correspondent bank who relays money back and forth have another profile for different items in the Caribbean. So, for instance, coming back to sports betting and online gambling, we had the opportunity to onboard a lot of $1 million a year. Yet the correspondent bank said no. But the same correspondent bank is handling millions and trillions of another island of the same kind of industry. So they're treating it all differently instead of, hey, it's black or it's white. I say the financial institutions need to make sure that they modernize themselves, they get up to par, and they open themselves up for more collaboration. It's simply put, if they don't move, the usually we have a proactive central bank in Curacao and St. Martin, and you see certain things happening in the community. You see that they give the opportunity. An example, we as a fintech organization, I'm now the chairman of the Curacao Fintech Association. The central bank has mentioned that there's enough things going on that we don't need to come and implement a phase two, which is the coherentness between merchants and users and technology. There's another one in the region that says, no, 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 I'm going to implement it. So you give a chance for collaboration of all the companies. If the financial institutions accept that, and the merchants and the users use it, it's matter rotation also that needs support. So you can come with a wallet and the users ask you how many merchants you have. The merchants say how many users you have. The bank asks you what volume you have. The central bank says how compliant you are. So it's all that together that mixes and matches what you need to have and to move forward.
So many things to take care and to
Oh,
take
yeah.
into consideration. After 10 years, you have both experience and traction. Now it becomes a question of focus and direction. Looking ahead, uh, 12 to 18 months, what does success realistically look like for CXPay?
We're creating at a moment's notice kind of tools. So that means at a moment's notice, we know not just how many people signed up, but how many people have an issue. How many people are at phase A or phase B or phase C of the process? How many people are processing? From where does the money come from? Where are the frauds? Where are this? Where are that? So in a moment's notice, all these tools come together that you can make your decisions also better. So an example, why should I spend money into something where it is a what if instead of I have this case, it is going to earn us this much. Let's move into this phase. We're also into innovation. So whatever's out there, for instance, our wallet right now has financial literacy. A merchant, company, or a user, a person can plan their financials in that app. So you can, like an ING or a bank in the Netherlands, has sub accounts or savings accounts. We do as well. So you can plan your financial life, a moment, whatever you would like to plan where money's involved, we have it. Now, where are we going the next 10 years? I can tell you right now, I can't. I have to plan three, two, three, maybe 5 years ahead. Because in 10 years, it's a completely different life. An example where e commerce was in 1998 and where it was last year, AI where it is 2 years ago and where it is now. So AI is going to be a part, or it is going to be a part of not just our lives, not just our businesses, but a part of our process. So that means we must be able to code correctly, have it checked correctly, do the pen testing correctly, but not just that, offer all the services that people would like. So, an example, why are we going to go to marketing companies and do SEO? Well, everybody puts in ChatGPT or in Claude or any other, they are putting queries. Why plan? Okay, so we're planning it incorrect. So, in a marketing kind of way, don't plan anymore for Google, plan for AI. When you have AI, how are you going to do that? You're going to have a bot. You're gonna have a bot which has the frequently asked questions. You're gonna implement so many more things into it to make sure where you're going. So if you ask me where we're going in 3 to 5, I can tell you right now between 2 and 5 years. That's the only thing I can see. I cannot see past 5 years because it's a completely different story. We'll be in Latin America. We'll be in Northern America as well. We're going to have everything that you think that might have a machine for kiosks or post to post. We have either replaced it or brought it over. Everything's automated from a metered subscription. Metered subscription means that 1 month it's this much, then the other month it travels a different amount. Where we're going is also hopefully in less fraud and less risk, because that's the only way that financial institutions listen and are coming on board. We need to prove to them that friendly fraud is not the same as regular fraud. So friendly fraud is that somebody in your family purchased something and you don't know about it or you missed it. Oh, I forgot about it. That's friendly fraud compared to regular fraud. But if we have much less of that, we can move forward. The same thing with we bring cross-border transactions into Curacao, the Dutch Caribbean, or even the whole Caribbean, where Ideal, Software Banking, Alipay, WeChat Pay, even Pix, all the way to the islands in the Caribbean because everybody travels. I mean, I want to travel. Why can't I pay with my own type of payment system wherever I go? So the Brazilians can have a chance to pay anywhere where, an example, you got Azul flying into Santo Domingo. Why can't they pay with Pix? An example. So those kind of things we will be enabling even more because we're doing it right now, but even more that things are at a grasp in a much easier way and in a much efficient and faster way.
Okay. Yeah. Not 10 years ago. I mean, 10 years from now, it's too low. I mean, when I talk to tech company using AI and I say, what are you looking for? 12 or 18 months? They say, but in 2 months, we don't know where we're going.
Correct.
Then, yeah,
Correct.
everything is different. If you had less constraints or no constraints, what would you like to accelerate?
I think in the acceptance level of the transaction. So making sure that acceptance of payment is is more acceptable, much faster, more efficient, and also less fraud. How to get there is there's tons of ways. So technicalities, I mean, we always say we know about payments, and others say we know more about that. Recently, I asked somebody, what do you respect more, knowing about payments or knowing about technology? They first start technology. I'm like, okay, so we're getting technology companies to be in charge of payment. So that's also something to worry about because not everybody knows about payments. The checks and balances need to be in place. The regulation needs to be there. Things need to be correctly. But if I'm not mistaken, AI would help us in much of that. You would have to have not less employees, but you can have every employee with their own assistant to move forward and do things in a faster and more efficient way. But acceptance and less fraud for me are going to be the most important ones.
You have seen you have seen the evolution of this space from the inside, and that's very rare. Based on your experience, what should funders or operators building in a similar market start or stop doing?
Stop doing the same things and stop competing against each other. Think of your own path. Think of your own path and move forward. So if somebody is good in something, keep good in something. Don't keep on doing the rest so you can take over other companies. We need to collaborate more. It is, oh, they're doing this. Okay, so let me also go do this. There is so much copy and pasting happening, and oh, let's do this, let's do that. With CXP itself, in the Caribbean itself, there's not a lot of online ticket or offline tickets options to purchase. There's not option of like an event, but we have that because there was a niche in the market, so we grabbed it. That's the solution, same thing. But it is the collaboration. Other fintechs need to work and collaborate with each other instead of inventing the wheel again on their own and then competing against each other. If we can, you'll be in charge of A and B, I'll do C and D, and together we do A to D. And we can do this in a more efficient and positive way. I think we can kick it very far. In the Caribbean itself, there's some nice and interesting companies. Some have received funding, some have not. And you notice it because the ones who are propelling suddenly in other countries in the Caribbean and fast, sometimes you see, hey, there's investors behind it. And others who are promoting the heck out of everything, that's also one of the reasons. But then look at the ones who are really doing solid business, fresh business, growing organically. I would say collaborate with each other to come to a better understanding and better ecosystem. So an example is in Santo Domingo, you got, if I'm not mistaken, a fintech organization with 68 associations or companies in there. All the banks are in there, all the credit unions are in there, all the fintechs are in there. Everybody's in there because they need to know of each other, they need to learn from each other, but they want to compete against each other too. However, how many of them collaborates with each other? That is also a very big reason. Why should I become a development company while there's one across the street, or I have three more in my association? Why can't we do business together? That's what we need to do. That's the future collaboration. And yeah, out there in Europe and the United States and everywhere, you see companies buying other companies over for what they're missing so they can do it as well. Yeah, but where's the experience? You need the experience, and in collaboration, through collaboration, you don't want to learn from each other and to copy each other, but learn from each other to move forward. That's my understanding. And sometimes people are like, "Yeah, but that's not life out there." But that's how you get yourself out there. It's like TEM, together everyone achieves more. Kind of that kind of a sense of the matter.
Yeah, I love your reasoning. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I like to say you need to give something in order to get something. Anyway, then that's a two-way street
Yep.
for better business.
Yep.
What advice will you give yourself 10 years ago?
Vote.
On the beach.
Um, a lot of what is it? Patience. Um, Sleep more before you start to not sleep. Prepare yourself. There's a lot of technology. There's a lot of reasoning that needs to happen. There's a lot of learning that needs to happen. There's a lot of teaching that needs to happen. If I need to look at myself 10 years back, I would know what to do to be different right now. I would have learned a lot more, gotten into the business a lot faster, known about other big ones and known what the holes are right now to collaborate even more. But I would have given myself much more patience and much more learn to and teachings to be in a better position right now.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's never simple, but yeah, learning, reading, getting getting knowledge from everywhere, from others, from the universe.
I,
David,
I,
thank you so
I have
much. Yes, tell me.
I have a lot of youngsters who I used to guide and advise a couple of years ago, and some of them are working in big tech companies right now, either in payments or in AI or in data or any of those kind of companies. And I speak to them. I'm like, I wish I had that age. I wish I would be 26 or 28. I could be so much further and during the prime of their life and be some work for me. But then these guys have the opportunities and gals have been in the opportunities with the big tech companies and make a difference. And it makes me only proud that if I need to look at 10 years ago, that's where I want to be right now is the chances and the possibilities that we can provide so much more if we all collaborate and give our future the chances.
Definitely. I love these words. That's great. Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you for taking the time and for joining. Very strong insight into your journey, your market, and the work you're doing at CXPay. That was great. I love our conversation. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome, and we'll keep the conversation going one way or another, and maybe another podcast in a year from now.
Of
Uh,
course.
where where can people find you or read about your work or your company?
So CXPay, 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 and we have cxpay.global. It's a website. We have hello@cxpay.global is our email. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook. Regretfully, we don't keep to update it on a daily basis. You need more people for it or put AI on it. But yeah, that's our channels. And anybody who's in the LATAM area or LAC region, we can help you. And then we can proceed in any of the assistance that we can provide currently and see where we can collaborate with each other if we don't.
Wonderful. I'm sure we do, and with the audience, I'm sure they'll try to reach out. And thank you so much, David.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity again.
And that's it for today's episode of AI Interconnect. If you enjoy it, share it with someone who is building the future, or better yet, someone who should be. And until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and keep building. Bye bye.